Good morning, boots on ground radio. Tuesday morning, February 18th. We got inclement weather on its way. You better get those plows ready, boys. Better get the salt trucks ready, boys. Better switch from fertilizing and liming those yards to spreading that ice melt, because it is going to be one of those inclement weather events that you are going to make some money. And you know what? This is what we're going to talk about here on the show this morning. We are going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about wages. We're going to talk about salaries. We're going to talk about what it is that you need to be charging your customers. And guys, there are times that we realize that we think we're charging enough. Not necessarily. You may think we are, but you're not. You may think you're paying your guys enough, but you're not. You might be paying your guys way too much. It just depends. Wages and salaries, the topic of today's show. And I'm running the gig solo. The Turfette, she's not feeling too good. Her boy's sick too, Jaden. We're passing it back and forth. And all I can do is please just don't give it back to me, because, man, I have had a time with this sickness. Oh, my goodness. It is no fun. And now that we have anywhere from probably 3 to 6 inches of snow headed our way, we're going to start pre-treat operations later this afternoon. We got a few things to do this morning, and go ahead and actually get what we called, what do you call it? The term slipped my mind. Mobilization. We're going to go ahead and mobilize and get everything ready. And people probably up north, they're laughing at us. They're like, what, 3 inches? These people are freaking out. But you got to forget, we're North Carolinians, and yes, we freak out when it comes to just a little bit of snow. But anyway, like I said, running it solo. We got the Turfette. She's still sleeping. She's like, Papa Turf, I need to sleep. So you remain there and get some sleep. I completely understand. And as you guys know, for many years with the other radio station, the Turf Teacher ran solo. But let's go ahead and start discussing wages and salaries. This is a course that I teach not only during the 10-hour seminar, but also the 7-hour seminar. It's one of the business credits for both landscape contractor and irrigation contractor. And it's a topic that really gets people's, opens up their minds, opens up their heart, to be honest with you. You're like, whoa, wow, I'm missing the boat. And I think a lot of us are. And if you listened to the show last night, if you listened to Be a Boss, Date a Boss, the title of that show is, why are you charging that? And so you got to go back and look at that. And I'm lucky enough as a turf teacher to go around to different areas of the state. Sometimes, we do get to travel for the state. We teach pesticides in like 10 different states, but, it's all through webinars. But going to these seminars and actually sitting down with contractors and really diving deep into labor rates, and what it is that we charge for our services. And I get a wide range of labor rates, and it really shocks me. It shocks me as a contractor, as a licensed professional, that two people who have the same license, who have to purchase the same workers' comp, the same general liability, so that they can purchase that bond in order to establish that license or renew that license. Your finances have to be on point. You can't have bad finances and be a licensed contractor in the state of North Carolina. You get audited. But we sit down in a room, and especially the smaller, intimate rooms that we have, and we had, I don't know, 10 or 11 in Fayetteville. We had 11 in Asheville this weekend. And then, we go to Raleigh, Mooresville, Concord, Myrtle Beach. We'll have 30 plus. I usually cap it like around 35. That's like the perfect size for these continuing education seminars. Any more than that, people are not going to communicate. But the fewer contractors there are, the more apt they are to talk. And we can dive deep into payroll charges that we have for our services, and people let loose. Per se, they let their mullets down, and we talk, right? And so, I'm hearing labor rates, and when I say labor rates, this is what we actually charge our customer for the services that we offer, and it really doesn't matter. If it's cutting grass, if it's, landscaping, if it's pruning. And yes, I understand that there may be different labor rates for some of the different services, some like leaf blowing, you're not going to get $200 an hour blowing leaves per employee. But really, when you look at leaf removal, you're spending money. You're running that leaf loader vacuum, you're running backpack blowers, you're burning fuel every single minute you're on the job site. But it's one of the cheapest labor rates probably in the green industry. Cutting grass, I've always heard, my dad always told me, he said, son, your breaking point is $50 an hour. So if you're charging $50 an hour, that's probably your break even. It may even be higher now, because Dad told me that years ago. And you think about it. Mowing yards. Look at the cost that it takes to pull up to mow somebody's yard. On average, what I see is a 3-personnel mowing crew. Not one, not two. It's more than likely 3. We have 3 people riding a truck. We have 3 people riding in an extended cab or a 4-door, $80,000 truck. Because it's got to be diesel, right? Everybody's got to have diesel. They got to have that snowplow ready, that's $10,000. So, you're looking at anywhere from, $70,000 to $80,000 truck. You're looking at a, $9,000-$10,000 trailer. You're looking at 2 Walker mowers that are $20,000 a piece. That's $40,000. 40 plus 10, that's 50, 80. Look, we're at 130 right there. Walk behind on the back, not much, but let's say 5,000. And then you got, $2,000 or $3,000 worth of weed eaters and blowers, and, $500 worth of tools, a couple backpack sprayers, a couple $100 each in there. So, we're pulling up to the job site, $140,000, right? And then we got 3 individuals in there that we're paying decent wages. We don't have anybody really working under $20, right? You can't hire anybody for that really anymore, especially, people that have families, people that have responsibilities at home. You're not going to get it. You might get a high school kid or something like that, but think of the wages that you're paying. And then you show up and you cut a yard for $50. 3 people on site. You got 1 mowing, 1 weed eating, blowing. The other one's probably walking around with a backpack. He's going to get done quick, so he's going to sit in the truck while they're finishing up. With that 3-person crew, you've always got somebody sitting. Somebody's always sitting down, no matter what. Even though there's stuff to do, it's just the mentality. Oh, well, they're finishing up blowing. I'm going to just sit in the truck. And so I've kind of revisited, guys. I don't have a problem with 1-person mowing crews. And it depends on the size of the properties. But I even know companies that send people to mow estates with 1 person. And they're there all day. They're there all day. They're like, we're not going to give the opportunity for an employee or 2 employees to take a 20-minute break together, because that's 40 minutes. That's nothing getting done. So I've seen a lot of people move to that 1 person. You know what? And it's okay to have 2. I'd say on average, on our route, we're probably 2 per crew. But I don't want my guys doing any spraying. I want my guys to mow when they're on the mowing crew. And so for the simple fact, when somebody gets done, not two of them's not going to grab a backpack sprayer and start spraying weeds and shrub beds. It's only going to be one, while the other one's kind of just lollygagging along, loading up the trailer, picking up sticks or whatever. I mean, it's just slow motion when the yard is finished. So, no, when they mow, they get in the truck and they go. And for one, guys, do you want that $20,000 mower sitting on the trailer while somebody's backpack spraying? Absolutely not. You want that mower to keep cutting grass. And that's why I'd rather have a separate horticulture crew of one person that is more of a, what you'd say, operations guy or a project manager, somebody that's, following up behind the mowing crew, can spray, can do a little bit of pruning. They're just double checking the guys. They've got a blower in case one of the guys missed blowing off a sidewalk in the back. They can take care. It's your quality control per se, and you're going to be able to catch a lot of the mistakes that they've made. And you write this down, and then you have time in the afternoons to talk to these guys. So I like that idea of that one person or two person mowing crew. I'd rather it be one, but guys get depressed, employees get lonely out there. There's nothing worse than seeing this estate that you have to mow and you're there by yourself. People just don't want to do it. And so comparing ourselves to other trades in the industry, think about electricians, plumbers. It's probably two of the people that we're going to call. Yeah, people call HVAC when, the heat goes out. But, I'd say plumbers are probably, on call the most because of plumbing issues. People get freaked out about that. They don't want water to ruin their floors or anything like that. And definitely they're scared of electricity. And now that, we've got snow in the forecast and, people's heat might not be working perfectly, they're calling these HVAC contractors. But let's take electricians for instance. And I used to teach electrical contracting at the college as well. Was kind of had that dumped in my lap and had to learn real quick what I needed to teach to get these young men and women prepared for electrical licensing. And it was a situation where we had an instructor quit, and being the department chair, I had to step in for a semester, actually 2 semesters, and actually teach. And so I learned a lot myself about electrical contracting. But the one thing that I did learn is that here in North Carolina, there are more licensed electricians over the age 80 than there are under 30, which means this is a career field that a lot of young people are not jumping into. Whether or not they're nervous about working around electricity, maybe they're too nervous about, running their own business. Not sure, not real sure. But the idea is there's a lot of older gentlemen and ladies in the electrical field, with the average age being, 57, 58 years old. Guys, that's retirement age, with the average of them being that. So you think right now what electricians charge. You listeners that are listening right now, think about what it is that you would have to pay an electrician to show up at your house today. If you had, if you lost power and you're like, oh my goodness, got to get this heat going. We got the snow coming in. What is that electrician going to charge you just to show up? Think about that. And think about what it is you're going to charge to show up to cut grass. Remember, you're showing up with about $140,000 worth of equipment. You're showing up with 3 people that are making $20 an hour. And you're going to show up and cut grass for $50. It's going to take 20 minutes or half an hour, travel time and stuff to the next property. So if you got 3 people there making $20 an hour, that's $60. You're only charging $50. And the fuel that you spend. And then that electrician shows up with a van and a toolbox, maybe a $400, battery operated drill set, Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee brand. Shows up with that, maybe a step ladder. And he's in a $40,000 van. And yeah, they got on the side, my electrical company, Visit myelectricalcompany.com. Phone number. But it's one person. It's one technician in the van. One technician. And they charge $300 just to show up. One of my good friends, now that I hired to teach the electrical classes at the college, is an unlimited general contractor, unlimited electrical contractor. And he told me, he said, Eric, because he's got a business too. He teaches school because he loves it. He loves being around the young folks. And he still runs a full-service electrical company and builds houses. He said, but you know what my most profitable thing is? Is when people call me panicking that they have an electrical issue. And he says, Eric, we show up, $300, and we flip a breaker. Flip a breaker. He said, I'm there 2 minutes. And our fee to show up is $300. He's like, 9 times out of 10, I don't even get the tool bag out. I just go in there, got a little tool pouch on my hip, and I'm going in there, what's the problem, ma'am? We are here to solve it. We are your problem solver with electricity. And people are thankful to pay him $300 to flip that breaker. It's common sense, folks. It's common sense. We had an instance, too, where we were putting Christmas lights up for 2 doctors. They were both doctors because they come home, they had their scrubs on, had their name, MD, behind it on the name tag. And super cool couple. Super cool. They were really good. When I first priced the job, I just didn't think they were going to go for it. I didn't. And, people shock you. You can just, you can get the hunch. I don't think they're going to buy, They had money where they lived. But we got the job. We sold the job, and then they added stuff to it when we were doing the job. And one of the plugs out back didn't work. And, the doctor, he was the male doctor. He was like loving watching us do what we do and stuff. And, he had his little kid in his arms and, toting her around and stuff, just cute as a button. And he said, yeah, that plug, ever since we moved in has never worked. And I'm standing there at the back door, kind of where the laundry room goes in. And I'm like, well, is it on a GFI or anything? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, or is it on a ground fault circuit? He's like, I don't know. And I kind of looked around and I said, sir, I see your plug right there on your countertop above your washer and dryer. He's like, yeah, it always glows like yellow. I was like, well, it needs to glow green. He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, can I show you? And he's like, yeah, come on in. And all I did was push that little button. And guess what happened? The plug outside started working. They were on the same breaker. And he thought I was a genius. And this guy's already gone through med school. It's common sense. But you know what? People get nervous when it comes to electricity. And he's like, we just hadn't had time to call an electrician or anything. Hadn't had time to call my buddy and charge $300, But I didn't charge him $300 for it, but we got to put a lot more Christmas lights in the tree out back. So it was just very shocking that people didn't understand that. And it's the way it is. So, guys, what do we charge then? We're too low in the green industry. We always have, and we always will be. I don't understand it. Why are we that cheap? Why are we that cheap? So, objectives of this class. We're going to talk a little bit about Fair Labor Standards Act. Employees need to be protected. Employers need to be protected. We're going to talk about hours worked. We're going to describe the 3 main types of records used to collect payroll data. We're going to calculate regular and overtime pay and then identify distinctive compensation plans. And you're like, wow, Eric, that's so sexy this morning. That is so awesome to talk about that. But no, guys, it is what we've got to talk about. Got to talk about overtime. Especially you guys are using your kids, you're using nephews, you're using high school students, stuff like that. It's a whole different ball game out there with that. And people in the green industry or, young folks, are attracted to that. They always know, hey, I can go work at the nursery. I can go get a job cutting grass in the spring and summertime while I'm out for school. So again, different laws apply to those. But, we'll try to cover most of those. If not, it is what it is. But this is, like I said, this is a 1 hour topic that we teach both for NCLC-LB and NCIC-LB credit. And we offer it as a webinar every so often. We're doing it like 2 or 3 more times between now and July 31st for license law renewal to get those landscape contractor license. So there is the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is FLSA. 2 basic coverage under it. You have enterprise coverage and you have individual coverage. And I would say that most of us in the green industry are probably individual employee coverage. We're not doing interstate commerce or anything like that, or we're not producing goods for interstate commerce. And you've got to have at least $500,000 of annual gross sales. And being in the green industry, we have a lot of mom and pop or single owner operators, and it's just hard to do 500,000. And you can't tell me, there's no way that you're a millionaire from cutting grass and you have 0 employees. You just can't do it. There's not enough hours in the day. And I've done a whole lecture on that, and I need to dig that out or actually redo it. There's no way that you can cut grass by yourself and make $1 million. It's impossible unless you're an influencer and you've got, companies paying you to use their stuff. It's just not with what people are paying to cut grass. I don't care who you are or what you say you are. It is impossible. It is impossible. And then they're going to and the same people turn around and say, yeah, man, I only charged $50 to cut the yard, but I did $2 million last year by myself, and I only did it from March until September, and I shut down. I take the rest of the year off. It's impossible, dudes. So when somebody tells you that, don't believe them. So most of us, we're going to have individual employee coverage. Includes employment in a fringe occupation closely related and directly essential to the production of goods for interstate commerce. So you can actually still do that. Or through a business that does not meet enterprise coverage, it must pay FLSA wages to those workers eligible for individual coverage. So it's not, you get a break from paying them more. You've just got to pay everybody the same. And then there's even laws covering that. And it's a shame, guys, that we had to bring in, discriminatory laws, to making sure that men and women are paid fairly. It drives me absolutely insane when somebody's going to pay somebody less based on their sex, national origin, their sexuality or whatever. I don't care who you are. If you're producing for me, you're going to get a fair wage. And I'm going to treat you like gold. You have to treat your employees good. Doesn't mean necessarily that your employees are going to treat you good. That ain't never going to happen. It just ain't going to happen. You can bend over backwards for some people, and they're still not going to do what they're supposed to do. So what is an employer? What is an employee? We're going to define that. Employer, ER, employee, EE. An employer is an individual who acts directly or indirectly in the interest of an employer in relation to an employee. An individual is an employee if the individual performs services in a covered employment. New 6-factor economic reality test. It's what determines it, right? Nature and degree of the employer's control. Permanency of the worker's relationship with the employer. Means and instrumentalities of the work. The amount of skill, initiative, judgment, or foresight required. Risk or benefit of profit or loss, and the degree of integration. I'm sitting here thinking, do I have guys and gals working for me that can really do all that? Absolutely. But basically what they're saying, especially with that degree of the employer's control. A lot of people say, man, I just 1099 my guys. I tell you what, man, they come in, they grab my truck, they grab my mowers. I even make them pay for the gas that goes in it because I'm paying them good as a 1099er. Hear that all the time. Guys, that is 100% illegal because they're using your equipment. The only way that 1099ing a green industry employee is they have to use their own equipment. They have to use their own vehicle. They have to use their own mowers. They have to use their own trailers. They have to have their own workers' comp. You can't cover them. They have to have everything of their own. Yes, you can be what I call clipboard mentality builder. You can be that landscape contractor who subs out everything, but they can't use your equipment. You also cannot tell them to be here at 8 o'clock in the morning. As an independent contractor, 1099 contractor, these guys have to, or at their discretion, show up when they want to. If they want to start cutting grass at 12 o'clock, they can start cutting grass at 12 o'clock. Remember, they're not an employee. They are a 1099er. And you have a lot of guys, a lot of owners think differently. They're like, by God, I don't care if they're taking my stuff or not. They're going to be working at 7 o'clock in the morning. I got too many yards to cut. You can't tell them. You can't tell them when to start. 1099 contractors are independent contractors. They can start when and wherever they want to. That you can give them a route sheet, and they're like, we're going to start over here today. It's up to them. You cannot have any control over them. People mistake that. Specific rules apply to employees of corporate, domestic workers, intern partners in the partnership, and statutory employees. Statutory non-employees, these are direct sellers, such as licensed real estate brokers. They're considered self-employed. And so, yeah, if you're a BIC, a broker in charge, your real estate agents or brokers, it's brokers. There is no more agents here in North Carolina. Everybody's a broker. You just have the broker in charge, and then you have your other licensed brokers. They're working independently. They're actually paying a fee. They're actually paying, rental space to have office space at the big real estate office. They're paying for their own marketing. They're paying for everything. I'm not going to see that work well with the green industry. Cosmetology. You got people who rent booths from a salon and build their own client base, but buy their own products, buy their own tools. And if they decide not to show up that day, 100% okay. They reschedule their clients. Independent contractor. They can't be told what to do. They're renting that space. You can't get pissed off that your independent contractor didn't show up because you're 1099. They're not your employee. You cannot tell them what to do. But I hear so many people do it, and they're like, by God, they are going to listen to me. They don't have to. They don't have to. They do probably because they're intimidated by you. But if they're using your trucks and your equipment, you're in violation. You are in violation. So FLSA and domestics. Domestic help includes cooks, butlers, caretakers, gardeners, not landscapers, gardeners, and chauffeurs. Also includes babysitters employed on other than occasional basis. That's domestic help. That's people coming into your home and actually helping. A caretaker. You have a parent that's sick, and so you have a CNA that comes in 2 or 3 times a week to give them, help bathe them or help them wash their clothes. Caretaking. Personal gardeners, because the person can't take care of their stuff. These employees must earn minimum wage if they work 8 hours or more per work week in one or more homes, or earn at least $2,000 from an employer in a calendar year. Okay. I would see people saying, green industry is a gardener. No, guys, we're landscape contracting. Personal gardening is not landscape contracting. That's going in and, hey, helping them with their interior plants, going outside and deadheading their flowers or whatever. This is a personal gardener working for that. And they have to earn minimum wage. Do you think your employees or my employees are going to work for minimum wage? No. But I could see Mr. and Miss Smith hiring a high school student when they get off the bus to come and help them, maybe push mow their backyard, deadhead their flowers, and then come inside and, do some, basic cleaning up or straightening up for them, helping them organize, stuff like that. That is that domestic worker. That is that in the home thing. And so what is minimum wage? Included in the regular rate of pay is all money. Commissions, earned bonuses, severance pay, on-call pay, and shift or weekend differentials. Discretionary bonus, one which is not agreed upon or promised beforehand, is not included in an employee's regular rate of pay. So, guys, we're talking about snow event. We're getting ready to have a lot of snow here. Am I going to pay the guys a little extra, during a snow event or to be on call? Because snow is 24 hours. You have to keep the banks clean. You have to keep the shopping center clean. There's three main things that have to be cleared at all times, especially during the night. If the grocery stores are open, they're going to want to make sure that, their parking lot's clean. They're going to make sure the sidewalk up into the shopping center's clean. They're going to want pre-treat. They're going to want post-treatment. They're going to want ice melt during the event. They want it clean because people are going to come in and buy milk and bread. It's just what happens, right? Second, drive-thrus at the pharmacy. The actual drugstore may be closed, but they're keeping a pharmacist there because people need their medicine. They got to keep those drive-thrus clean. Same thing with ATMs at the bank. We've done them all, guys. We've done them all. We don't necessarily completely push the entire parking lot, but we keep the ATM and drive-thrus clean. So these employees are going to be working longer shifts. They're going to get overtime, yes. But are they going to get a little bit of on-call pay? Hey, depends. Are they going to wait here at the shop so that when we mobilize, Like everybody's here, they're hanging out in the shop, watching TV, drinking coffee, cooking on the stove, doing whatever. If they're there waiting, they've got to be paid, guys. They've got to be paid. Paying less than or more than the minimum wage. All right, current minimum wage is $7.25 per hour, North Carolina. Federal, established with Fair Minimum Wage Act of 2007. Certain exceptions to the minimum wage. Training wage can be $4.25 per hour. And I'm sitting here saying this, and there's probably some landscaper listening to this. I got them on a training period for about 2 months, and you mean I only have to pay them $4.25? I can see it now. People are saying that. But guys, people are gonna laugh at you. They're gonna laugh at you. But that's for the first consecutive 90-day of employment of newly hired employees, less than 20 years of age. That's where they get you, guys. If they're 20 years older, you got to pay them. You got to pay them the at least the minimum. But ain't nobody gonna come work for you for minimum wage. I'm sorry. You can go to Target, you can go to Chick-fil-A, and you're going to start out at like 15 plus an hour. So do you think somebody's going to get out there and cut grass in 95-degree weather, having to wear all the PPE, slinging grass all over them? They're going to be in the air-conditioned, cooled, making the same amount. So you got to step up the game, guys. You got to charge more so that you can pay more. And I've never understood that. I have never understood that. And when it comes to the green industry, nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to talk about what it is that I charge. Nobody. And I don't understand it. Why, as green industry pros, can we not sit down in an organization? Remember, there used to be ALCA, Associated Landscape Contractors of America. Then it went to PLACA or whatever. Now it's, something else. But here in the Triad, we used to have the Piedmont Triad Landscape Association, PTOP, landscape professionals. We'd get together, at Renolda Gardens. We'd get together, at Tanglewood Arboretum. We'd have dinner, and then we'd have some kind of class, learning about plants or a new pesticide, stuff like that. And we would talk about wages. And when every time wages came up, people would get so mad. And it's like they didn't want to do it. And so it kind of just dissolved. Nobody wants to talk about what it is that they charge, like it's top secret, and you've got to have a tier 1 security clearance to talk about charging clients and paying employees. Electricians do it. Plumbers do it. Everybody else does it. And don't tell me to think that if you were to price having a house built and you hired 3 different builders or got 3 different builders to price it for you, they're going to be real close on square footage. Every builder's got that high-end square footage price, and that's using the good stuff. And, then they got, hey, what kind of house is this? Are you guys on a budget? Here's what it is per square foot. And they're going to be close. But I'm seeing landscape contractors anywhere from $40 to $140 an hour labor rate. And I'm sitting here, what? You're charging your client $40. Yeah, man, I'm making a killing. Making a killing. Making a killing. Okay. Yeah, I'm paying my guys $25. I'm making $15 an hour per guy out there. Now, I got 2 with me. Plus I'm making my 40. And fuel, every time fuel goes up, I lose money. But, I'm making it, man. God almighty, I made more than I did in the factory. That's the mentality. I'm making more than I did in the factory. They're still basing how much money they make off an hourly rate for themselves. Even the guys at $140 an hour labor rate, guys, that should probably be your average, and that should probably be your cheapest labor rate on some of the stuff that you do. Well, let me tell you something. When it comes to snow removal, $140 ain't much, especially when you're burning that fuel. And that truck or that plow, that skid steer with a blade is running 24/7 during a snow event. Yeah, you're losing money at that. You need to probably be around $250 an hour when it comes to snow removal. But we don't talk as a green industry. We don't sit down together and say, hey, we need to establish a minimum rate for services like this. And I don't know if we're flooded with people that get fired, that quit the factory job, or we just get flooded with people that think they're an entrepreneur. And they're in and out. They're in business 1 or 2 years, and they decide, whoa, I'm losing money because I am charging $40 an hour. Or they just quit because they get burnt out, and it's not a passion. Guys, when you do stuff because you love it, you'll do it forever. When you do it for money, you'll quit. And you realize real quick you weren't charging enough money in the first place. I don't get it, and I never will get it. I will never understand why this happens. And so our clients automatically think, okay, this person got into the green industry because they can't do anything else. So they're not worth $140, $130 an hour. They're not even worth $40 in their minds to you. And it's our fault from day one. From day one. You see all these other trades get licensed back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, here in North Carolina anyway. And yet we're on year number 8 for landscape contractor. Year number 8 of having a license. 2016, guys. This is 2004 right now. GCs have been licensed since like the late 30s. Electricians like the 50s. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But everybody fought it tooth and nail. Nobody wanted to have a license in the green industry. I ain't paying that $75 a year, by God. That's money in my pocket. And I literally hear that at my seminars. People complaining about the price of the license. Man, I've got to cut 2 yards to pay for that. Well, that's ridiculous that you're looking at it like that. But that's how it's looked at. They don't want to pay the $75 or $100 a year, for corporate license. They're not going to do it. It's one of the proudest things I've ever been called is landscape contractor. Number 1 was father, dad. Dad, I love you. I love hearing my girls say dad. Like that just melts my heart. I loved hearing my Marines and my soldiers call me Doc as I was their medic. Hey, Doc, can you help me with this? Hey, Doc. Hey, man,
I'm kind of depressed, man. Doc, can you help me out? Can I just talk to you, Doc? Loved hearing people say Doc. And then lastly is landscape contractor. I stand up on top of the mountain, guys, and scream that I'm a landscape contractor. I am proud of it. You should be too. You should want to put that seal on every document. You should want that logo on your truck. North Carolina licensed landscape contractor. It should be something that those of you who are not licensed should be striving to get licensed. Even though you may never reach the license limitation, you should want to be called that. This is a practice act, guys. It's not a title act. It used to just be a title act. You couldn't call yourself a landscape contractor unless you were registered. Now it became licensed law, so it's licensed landscape contractor, and you can't call yourself that nor practice it. This one's a practice act. Get licensed. Be proud. This is a licensed industry. That's why we have people who study turf grass who have PhDs, and they become the expert in tall fescue or Bermuda or any other grass. They're golf course professionals. There's PhDs in horticulture. Now there's PhDs in landscape architecture. Guys, this is an art and a science. This isn't something that you get into just because you can't do anything else. So what about overtime? What about overtime when it comes to this? Like, look, my guys are going to make overtime during the holiday season when we do Christmas lights. They're going to make overtime in this snow event that we're getting ready to have. So what is that? Employer can require employees covered under FLSA to work overtime. So you as the employer, you can require it. In the last snow event that we had, I had a point. My operations guy looked at me and said, I'm not pushing snow. Looked at me and said that. He's no longer here. He quit. But said I was not going to do that. I'm like, okay. That was one of the times I needed him the most. But luckily, we found some temporary help that got us through it. I made a lot of money that weekend. I actually made a lot of money that day. It wasn't over the whole weekend. It was that day. If they refuse, they can be terminated. So I can tell my guys, hey, I need you working tonight. I need you working tonight because of the snow. And if they're like, no, I ain't doing it, they can be fired. They can be terminated. No questions asked. Exceptions to the above are as follows. Retail or service industry employees, if their regular weekly pay rate, including commissions, is $10 or more, special rules apply. And employee receiving remedial education. So if somebody's receiving remedial education, they don't necessarily have to do it. But most guys at what we pay here, if they can multiply that times 1.5, they're like, oh, bruh, man, I'll be making that an hour. May have to show them that on paper, or pull out the phone, let them figure it out. And they're like, yeah, man, I'm going to be here. I will definitely work that overtime. I guess snow work is unless you're shoveling, if you're in the skid steer, you're in the truck, it's a pretty good job. Pretty good job. I'm not complaining. Oh, let's see. I'm just kind of going through my notes here, guys. Actually had 2 slides back to back. And, even up in Asheville, I didn't even go through these slides. It's in my heart, and I've got it memorized. So what is exempt versus non-exempt employees? And so let's think about that. Exempt means exempt from some or all of FSLA provisions. So it's somebody that's on salary. So FSLA does not apply to them. These are usually white-collar workers, And yes, the green industry does have white-collar workers and blue-collar workers. We have to have them both, right? But executives, administrators, professionals, business owners, highly compensated employees, computer professionals. So if you have an IT guy working in your office, or you have multiple branches and you have to have an IT person on staff, they're exempt. It means they are salaried more than likely. Creative professionals and outside salespeople definitely goes hand in hand with the green industry. You've got a landscape designer on staff or landscape architect on staff. And then you have your salespeople, that are commission or whatever. They are exempt. They must be paid at least $684 per week and paid on the salary basis. And looking at that 684, I'm sure that's, minimum $20 an hour, with the taxes taken out. 20 times 40 is 800, and then 684 is going to be, with the taxes out. A proportionate share of exempt employee salary for time actually worked only allowed on employees' first or last week of employment. And blue-collar workers, manual workers are always entitled to overtime pay. Putting someone on salary doesn't mean that person is exempt, though. So they still may have to fall underneath FSLA provisions. And we've had guys in the past that's like, hey, man, I need salary. But they're in the field. They're working. They weren't a designer, and they weren't, any type of executive administration. It's just typically an older individual that, wanting that guaranteed pay. I hate salary. I hate it. I do not like it. The only time that will ever happen again, if that would be somebody like based on commission or whatever, and they must produce. I'm not going to hire somebody ever again on 40 paid full and they never work 40 again. Like it just don't. It's like, man, I need off today. I got to do this today. There's always an excuse never to put in a full 40. And then when they don't want to work, the extra hours when we have a snow event or during the holiday season, never going to happen. Never going to happen. Come here, boy. As y'all heard yesterday during the show, Shiloh just needs extra attention this morning. It's okay, buddy. He hears me talking about wages and salaries, and and he is the true definition of welfare. Gets to stay home all day, gets whatever he wants, whatever food he wants, whatever toy he wants. He watches TV all day, got the air conditioning, pulled up in a blanket, and he got access to the beer. So, I mean, the dog's just got it made. Got it made. Oh my goodness. So indications of exempt status. We got a little diagram here that I'm talking about. You got your executives, you got your administrators, you got your professionals, and then you got the business owner, right? So you also got highly compensated employees that earn at least $107,432 or more a year. Non-manual work, regularly performs one of the exempt duties of an executive, professional, or administrative employee. That's going to be your highly compensated. That's probably going to be somebody that's been with you 20 plus years that just knows the business inside and out. Like I said, your IT computer guys, your creative professional, your landscape architect working for you, and then outside salespeople. Primary duty is to make, sell, or obtain orders for services or the use of facilities. Regularly away from the employer's place of business, and really no salary test. These are guys going out humping it, knocking on doors, selling landscape jobs for you. And during the class this weekend in Asheville, we had a guy that's down in Charlotte. Say he's got 49 employees. He keeps it underneath 50, so he don't have to do the health insurance. And I don't blame him. I mean, that's 49 employees. That's going to cost quite a bit. But he said he has scaled back some, and he's running two different companies. A landscape business and then another type of business that can, go back and forth if they have to. But also has a landscape designer on staff, salaried. And he said, sometimes that's tough, wintertime, people aren't thinking landscape designs. They're not thinking about jobs like that. And so he said, every now and then I was like, look, man, we got to bring in some jobs. And he said, I'll say it. And, the dude'll make it happen. He'll go out and sell a couple jobs for him to do that. But if you've got a good landscape designer working for you in your company, whether it's as a subcontractor or you hire them out or put them in contact with your client, you get a good designer, the work will come in. They will keep you busy in work. And I love that. I love that. So you've got to have a good working relationship with a landscape architect, landscape designer, or have one on staff. You will be good. But let's think about that executive. Primary duty is managing. They're managing your employees. So you've got an operations manager or you've got project managers. Say you're big enough that you have several properties and that, each project manager oversees, 10 commercial properties, and they have, 2 or 3 crews that work for them, and the property and that project manager oversees that. Your administrative, this is office work. It's going to be your secretary. This is going to be, accounts receivable, accounts payable. This is going to be your office staff that's going to do it. They're exempt. Professional, we have the creative professional, and then we have the professional. But professional work requires advanced knowledge, science, or in a learning experience, knowledge acquired by prolonged course of instruction. So this is going to be probably a license or a degreed horticulturalist. This is going to be another license holder working for you. Let's say you're the landscape contractor running a full service landscape contracting business, and you hire an irrigation contractor on staff to actually license your company. You that is legal. People do that all the time. Hey, I'm just going to hire an irrigation contractor, and you pay that person well, and they're exempt, and they're working for you. And then you, as the business owner, at least 20% of equity in the business, and then actively managing the business operations is exempt. And then we already talked about the highly compensated, the IT guys, the creative professional, and then your outside salespeople. So those are the ones that are going to be exempt. Now, what about equal pay? Now, like I said, this is something that's really bothering me that, because I'm a father of 3 daughters, and I'm getting ready to marry the love of my life. And to think that either one of them is not paid the same just because they're a woman drives me crazy. What is wrong with us, people? And what is wrong with us not paying somebody the same because they're of different skin color or different national origin? This is a law or an act that shouldn't even had to been created, because it should have just been common sense that everybody deserves a fair share. Everybody deserves the same opportunity to make the rank, to climb the corporate ladder per se. But this amended FLSA requires that men and women performing equal work must receive equal pay. So you can't hire 2 landscape designers and the man make more than the female. Now, guys, granted, if somebody's been there 30 years, yeah, they've probably gotten pay raises. But what it is, they're talking about, you can't be brand new and say, I need 2 designers and I'm going to pay my man designer, 25, and I'm going to pay my female designer 20. You can't do that. You can't base it off sex. But you can have an employee who's been with you 30 years that's, gotten pay raises over the years and maybe making $35 an hour. But you have that entry-level landscape design position at 25 and start somebody there. Applies to any employer having workers subject to the minimum pay provisions of the wage and hour law. Prohibits discrimination by paying wages to employees of one sex at a lower rate than those of the opposite sex. And if unlawful pay differential exists, employer must raise the lower rate to the equal higher rate. Again, why in the world do we actually have to have that? Oh, child labor restrictions. This applies a lot to the green industry because we all work our kids, right? But under the FSLA, the Secretary of Labor issues regulations that restrict the employment of individuals under the age of 18. Non-farm occupations. 14 and 15-year-olds are limited to employment in retail, food service, and gasoline service with very specific conditions that must be met relating to hours. 16 and 17-year-olds are limited to no more than 3 hours on a school day, no more than 8 hours on a non-school day, and no more than 16 hours each week when school is in session. However, they can work up to 40 hours a week when school is not in session, so during the summer. Violations of this provision can result in serious fines. Don't get caught doing it. I know there's different laws, for working your children, and, you can pay them so much. I need to go back and actually investigate that, but it is a tax deduction, to work your kids. So you don't have to pay tax on that. And same thing with now, if you have a stay-at-home mom, that is actually a tax deduction. So that is some things that have just changed here recently. So I think that's going to help a lot of business owners in all the service and contracting industries because, the mom does stay home. The wife stays home and actually helps raise the kids and actually works, part-time in the business, but usually sometimes doesn't take a paycheck. She's doing it just because they need the work done. So now that can actually be a tax deduction for the business. So what the FLSA does not cover, guys, is employers are not required to pay extra for weekend or holiday work. We don't have to. Yeah, guys, we're open. You need to be here. You don't have to pay for holidays, vacation, or severance pay. It can limit the number of hours of work for persons 16 years of age or over. We do not have to give holidays off. We do not have to grant vacation time or grant sick leave. And so it does not cover any of those things right there with the FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Act. And so we're going to kind of finish discussing wages and salaries right there. And I think we'll probably may do it again tomorrow, talk about it again tomorrow and finish this up. But guys, I want to kind of recap what we've talked about today, especially when it comes to labor rates. Don't be afraid to talk to your fellow contractor. Don't be afraid to talk to the licensing board or anybody else that you know in this green industry. Let's get on the same page. I don't understand why it's top secret. None of what we do is top secret. It's not. And if we all came together as a green industry, if we came together as a community, we could raise our standards. We could raise our pay rates. We could pay more. We talk about not attracting people to the industry. You can't do that charging $40 an hour labor rate to your customer and turn around paying somebody, well, man, I can't pay more than $15 an hour, but I can't find nobody to work. And seriously, I know I change my voice when I talk like this, but that's the voices that I hear when people start talking to me about that. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It drives me crazy. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you listening this morning. If you missed the show last night with me and Jennifer, we do Be a Boss, Date a Boss. We talked a little bit about what I did this morning, but we did a recap of the Asheville trip. We had a blast in Asheville this weekend. Our next classes are coming up in Concord and Wilmington in March. So if you're needing continuing education credit, please go to turfteacher.com, click on the seminars tab, and we are going to get up our webinars. We're going to start back with our Turf Talk Tuesdays real soon, and we do have a list of webinar Wednesdays where you can get all of your North Carolina landscape contractor credits on a Wednesday. 7 weeks in a row, you would get all necessary continuing education and pick up maybe a couple of irrigation credits as well. We do have a couple of those classes that will get you pesticide credit, but always on Turf Talk Tuesday, you will get all of your pesticide credits that you need. So guys, I appreciate it. It means the world to me. Follow me on all the social media at Turf Teacher and follow Jennifer on all the social media at The Turfette. Guys, I appreciate it. I love each and every one of you, and I will see you in the next lecture. Turf Teacher out. And don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow morning here on Boots on Ground Radio, and we're going to have the Lee Withers joining us. It's always going to be a Wednesday with Lee here on Boots on Ground Radio. Get them snowplows ready. Get them shovels ready. Get them fertilized spreaders converted from putting out lime and pre-emergent right now. And let's go spread some ice melt. Guys, we're going to pre-treat tonight. And we're going to set up all night, cup of coffee in hand by the fireplace, watching it snow. Gotta go, got a radio. Talk to you guys tomorrow morning. Turf Teacher out.